Hey guys, a quick note about today's recap video. As we were in the editing process, we realized that there was something wrong with Aaron's microphone and it was making a weird buzzing sound and it was very distracting. So we decided just to go with the camera audio on this one, which means that because we were in the studio, it's going to be fairly echoey. Good news is Aaron says the more you watch it, the less you notice it. So there's that. But anyway, that was what was going on with our audio. Hopefully we will have the issue fixed by next week, but I just wanted to let you all know. Hope you enjoy the video. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video, which is sponsored by Proven Winners and some of their brand new shrubs that are going to be out in 2024, which are going to be on their way here shortly, right?
Yeah. We typically get them earlier in the season, but I actually requested that the grower kind of like grow them on a little bit farther, which they're totally fine with because I think spring is kind of like crazy anyway. So they like keep them looking nice and then deliver them as they're
They do better at that than we do.
Exactly.
I wanted to talk about three specifically though that I'm very excited to get my hands on. The first one is a type of quince called Double Take Eternal White. And the wonderful thing, okay, so three things. Double white blooms, just clear, pure white, beautiful, early blooming. Second, it's thornless. The older varieties of quince have like wicked thorns on them.
Didn't we have one?
Yes, we had a massive one. That's the third thing I was gonna mention.
Oh.
This one is a fraction of the size of older varieties. We had to remove one along the west side of our house that was so, it was so huge. I mean, they had to like hedge it up in order to get down the walkway. Do you remember that? It was like a square.
I don't remember it. I think it didn't look that great because it had been kept
shorn
back so hard.
Yeah, there was a lot of like big wood that you could see. Anyway, so I'm really excited about that. The second one is the Oh So Easy Ice Bay Rose. I have really good luck with Proven Winners like landscape style roses specifically. I mean, I also have pretty good luck with their At Last. It does great here. Rise Up Amber Nest is a great one as well that I love. But this one is a kind of fluffy white, but open. Like you can see the yellow center. And it also doesn't get super huge. I have the details up because I didn't want to forget anything, but zone 3 through 9. So if you are in a colder zone and you want that rose interest, but you struggle with some of the other ones, this would be a good one. 2 to 3 feet tall and wide. Let me turn my volume off. And the third one is the Cedar Rapids False Cypress, which Aaron, I think you're gonna love.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. It looks soft.
It does. Soft, smells good, very architectural in its structure. It does get quite good size, 30 feet by 12 to 15 feet wide. I still feel like anything in the 12 to 15 feet, that's like a medium-ish. In the evergreen realm, it seems like a medium, because, you know, height is one thing, but width is usually what we're having to kind of contend with, you know, space-wise. You want to make sure that it's not going to run into the neighbors too close. So 12 to 15 feet isn't like, you know, some of the big spruces and things that can get 30 or whatever, but I'm excited about this because I also do like the deep green color.
Do we know how it does with like more acidic soil or alkaline soil?
I want to say that it wants more acidic soil,
really?
But I would say, isn't that the same with the North Poles?
Yeah, probably.
And those are looking pretty dang good right now.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful. I mean, this is a zone 4 through 8.
Did you notice that the North Poles that kind of burned last year because our water wasn't working quite right? They're like coming back.
They are. They're recovering. It
turns out plants just need water and they're okay.
Imagine that. Okay guys, let's jump into the videos from last week. The first one was planting in a formal garden and in front of the chicken coop. So we took after those four they're kind of triangular shaped beds in the Versailles garden around our Persephone statue. We went with Surefire Rose Begonias and I think it looks phenomenal to me. But we also went back in time and talked through all the other years we planted there. And that's always fun because I kind of forget. I forgot the year of the Royal Velvet and the Latte. I remember it not like by the end of the season, we were kind of like, ooh, I don't know, the light wise, I don't think this is going to work anymore.
You know, I also wonder, looking back on that, how good of a job we were doing at things like budworm spray.
Yeah, well, we didn't have Paul.
No, we didn't
at the time.
And we weren't as like on it with. I mean, that was one of the reasons that we were like, we need help. Is just because we were spending so much time like making videos and doing other stuff.
We couldn't do the maintenance. We didn't have enough time for that.
Yeah,
not
really
all
difficult
the time.
to be consistent at the maintenance.
Right.
Anyway.
And then after we were done with that, it was the next day. I had a couple videos that week that just kind of stretched into 2 days because I don't even know. Just happened. Life happened. I don't know. But anyway, the next day, oh, I remember why. This one, I took forever figuring out what I wanted to plant there. Right. I had no idea what I was going to put in that space, and it came together, I think, real pretty. It's very soft, and the colors are like soft purple and that sky blue petunia, and those really beautiful African daisies, the blue ones. So nice. And then I think I did the quicksilver geraniums. I started from seed, and I really like how it turned out. Kathy said, I'm trying to plant in hard compacted soil, former gravel driveway. How did you get the soil next to the chicken coop so workable? It took a little while because that, as you know, the chicken coop used to be a potting shed. Right in front of it was gravel, and that, it wasn't a driveway right there, but it was kind of a thoroughfare. Like, it had been walked on it for, I don't even know how many years. And I think maybe before the potting shed was put in, it could have been more driveway area. And when I initially, I don't know if, for those of you who've been around for a while and have been watching our videos, you might remember when I tried to work that soil. But I did plant tone in there, I think is what I had on hand at the time. Did I throw compost in there, and then I tried to till it, and the tiller was bouncing on top of the soil. It would not grab.
Put some gypsum in there too.
I think you're right. Yeah. Anyway, it was just, it's been years of irrigation that softened soil up pretty nicely. Also the amendments, we've been adding it in to where like the bed is like kind of higher than the bricks now. So when I water, I have to be careful.
Oh, sure.
That the drip doesn't do it because it's such a slow drip that it has time to soak in. But when I water everything in initially, I have to be careful because it's just higher now because we've added so much good stuff in there.
Tilling certainly will help. If you can't till, I do think that like the three, gypsum, compost, and water. Yeah. And those, like over time, it will become you want to get as much of the rocks out as you can, but even if you have rocky soil, if you keep adding compost, I think it'll be okay. It might drain a little bit more.
Yeah. I did break the gravel away, as much of it as possible.
Yeah.
But it's been a long haul kind of thing. It wasn't awesome the first year or two, and now it's much better. Drummer Loves Bookworm said, what would be the best size auger for a home vegetable and flower garden? Home vegetable, what sizes do I use out there? I actually use the 2-inch auger the most out in our cut flower garden because I'm planting pack size plants usually that I've started from seed. So we use a 36-inch high and 2-inch wide diameter auger, which we will link down below.
The Laura edition.
The Laura edition, because of the flighting, so the metal part on the bottom, like actual auger part, is a lot shorter, and it makes the auger a lot lighter weight and does the job just as good. And I prefer higher augers. I never use a short auger. Higher augers because it makes you not have to bend. Like the whole getting on your knees and having to aug, like that, I know that probably maybe works for some of you guys, but for me, like it's the most awkward position for my back, and it doesn't help me out at all because I'm still having to get down on my knees and move a million times up and down.
The only way I could see how the short auger could make sense is if you're the type of gardener who spends the entire time on your knees. Like if you bring all your stuff there. That? Well, in small spaces. If you're in a really small space and you're not, like, you're thinking of it, I think, from, like, you have, like, rows of things that you're planting. But most people are not doing that. I think if you're staying within, like, a 5-6 foot area,
you still are up and down though.
Not necessarily.
Because I can't reach 5 feet with that. I mean, the amount of weight and the torque on your body.
Sure.
If you can just like size up where you want the holes and zip, 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 you don't even have to get down on the ground ever. And for me, I'm like, why wouldn't you do it that way?
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah. The other one that I use a lot, specifically more for vegetables, because those I'm getting a little bit bigger. If I don't grow them myself, they're in like 4-inch containers, and I use it a lot for annuals, is the 3-inch auger. Also the Laura edition, so 36-inch tall, smaller flighting, it's a lot lighter weight, and it's made life pretty easy. Okay, Catherine said, what type of shovel was Paul using to mulch? It looked like it made the job so much easier. It's like a big scoop.
Yeah, like a snow shovel.
Well, it's not like a traditional snow shovel that's kind of like wider and more shallow. It's got more of a scoop to it.
Yeah. Those types of tools are just, we just get stuff like that locally, and we just find things that work. Mm-hmm. We don't have like a go-to, this is the brand to buy.
Mm-hmm. This is the shape to buy.
Yeah.
I don't know. We probably picked that up at the garden center or maybe like Tractor Supply. I could see Paul being like, that looks handy. Right, I think I'll try that. I'll pick that up. Jody said the silver pink geraniums are exquisite. Never seen any of that color before. Where did you get the seed? From Swallowtail Garden. I got all of my geranium seeds from them. And I grew lots of colors. Tell you the colors I won't grow again are the scarlet and the coral. They are much too hot for my taste. The coral looked almost red. But the Quicksilver, Apple Blossom, Bullseye Salmon, and White. Those were good. Love those.
Could it be possible you got the wrong seeds?
No,
Oh.
I don't think so. They look pretty true. Oh, I also grew, I grew violet and I grew pink, which I still have in the greenhouse, and I probably won't lean on those. I use the pink in one arrangement, but they're just a little bit too bright for me, I think.
How often do you think that happens? Not that you got wrong seeds, but how often do you think that happens where people get the wrong seeds and are like, man, this is not what I thought it was going to be?
I don't know. I think if you're buying from a reputable source,
yeah,
you know,
sure.
I mean, I wouldn't worry about that too much. If you're buying like off of eBay,
Yeah.
you know, or something like that, maybe I would worry. Or
do you remember back in like 2015, 16, that was like a thing going around a lot?
like
I saw
the rainbow rose.
Yeah, a lot of comments about, people would buy like the rainbow rose that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Or these really exotic like blue roses that don't exist. And they were all these seeds from China, and they were just like weeds, you know. You'd put them in the ground, and they would grow something.
Didn't we get a package of seeds?
What's that?
Didn't we get a package of random seeds from China? I seem to
yeah,
remember
you know,
we
that
did.
was a different thing where people around the country, and I never really heard like what was going on. I remember everybody was saying, don't plant them. But people were just getting seeds that they didn't order from China. And it was this kind of like scare for a little while, like, what are they doing to us? You know, but I think it was maybe benign. I don't know.
Wow, that was really weird.
Yeah.
Marcy said, I have an oh-so-easy paprika that appears to be reverting to a different rose. Have you heard of such a thing? Love the blue daisy container. You know, I've heard of roses reverting. Usually it's like if they're coming up from underneath the graft. But I don't know that the oh-so-easies are I don't think they're grafted. I think they're their own root.
Is that what own root means? Is that it's like...
Like if it dies back to the ground and comes up from the roots, it'll still be that same variety.
Gotcha.
If you have a graft, then your root system is a different variety than the top part.
Sure.
Because that root system is usually hardier and tougher.
Sure, that makes
sort of
sense.
thing.
It's the root is the same as the plant.
Yeah.
Versus...
Yeah, but that's weird. If it is throwing out different color or what, I mean, I don't know how it would be reverting.
Some plants can do weird stuff. Jerry from Creekside sent me a photo of like a petunia that was like reverting. Like it had one whole branch that was like white, but it was supposed to be like a dark purple or something like that. Those kinds of things
just happen every once in a while.
Yeah, it's not like it's a normal thing. You just, you know, the plant was just being weird.
The Buzzy Bumblebee said, double question for this video. One, do Paul or Bethany help you with filming it all? Running the camera for you? They don't run the camera for me. I typically do that myself most of the time, unless it's a situation like we're doing a tour and you can tell that I'm clearly not holding the camera and the camera's moving. That's Aaron. But when I'm like vlogging projects, it's usually just me. Paul will ask if he does specific things. Like he mulched a bed that I had planted yesterday and he asked if we wanted him to film it. And most of the time we're like, yeah, that would be great, because I think seeing every bit of it finish and button up is kind of satisfying.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's been really great, both of them, at, you know, capturing those moments that I think are a little bit key.
Sure.
You know, to the project. So.
Well, and we never want people to think that we don't have help or that we're doing it ourselves, because, you know, we're not doing it all ourselves. So, you know.
Yeah. And two, do the cats ever dig in the areas you have recently biotoned? They do not. I've heard of dogs doing that. I haven't really heard about cats doing it. Maybe they would, if you have a curious one, an extra curious one.
Yeah. You know, somebody sent an email about how their dog or cat was trying to get into the Eco Plus Grande pots, those compostable. Any of the plants that she had planted, she pulled the tab and like planted it, and the animals were after it. And she was like, I know they're made of some type of like a corn byproduct, or, you know, something that,
or beets or something like that.
Something that would otherwise, you know, be like silage or whatever. But so yeah, I don't know, there may be something in there that's attractive to them. Oh,
that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if we hear that more.
Yeah.
You know, as those pots are being used more. Which I think by and large they recommend not planting your plant in the containers.
Yeah,
because they just don't break down fast enough.
It seems like they're learning that they break down in about 2 years. And so it's really not, you're not getting that breakdown especially for annuals, you're not getting that breakdown But, you know, having a pot, I saw something that was written about, you know, it breaks down like 998 years faster than plastic. You know, because it's like, yeah, it's about 2 years to break down, so it's compostable. And even if it goes to the landfill, it's still miles better than plastic.
Hello, Laura, love the channel. I was just wondering, have you ever tried mulch dye when the color fades?
You know what? I just saw the box of mulch dye that I bought, not a box, the bottle, and I was like, man, I should have tried that. We've been really happy with our compost though, so it hasn't really been an issue.
We've got it on hand though, just in case.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do like a side-by-side comparison. Like pick a full sun area where that might fade a little bit faster and see what happens. We'll have a test plot. Kathy said, I was wondering when you were going to start planting the area in the front landscape. I can't wait to see what you do with that area. So the front flower beds, one of them we just planted a tree in, and I'm not sure if you will have seen that before this video or not. We are a couple of days ahead. That tends to happen this time of year when we've just got so much going on that we're able to film a ton of projects. Anyway, so we did plant a tree, and there's a rock pathway going in, the one under the ash tree right now. Like not today. It probably won't even be done by, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's being worked on and it's going to be beautiful, and I think having that structure is going to help me so much, because when you've got something that you know, like, oh, I'm not going to plant big things up next to that, so you can start planting around it and kind of building from that, having that one solid thing in the bed. And then when that pathway is done, I think we're going to take our fountain down, pour a concrete pad, like a proper concrete base that the fountain can sit on, and then we'll do a little flagstone kind of thing around that. And I think that will start helping me visualize that big flower bed. Matthew said, did Laura's video break the power planter website today? It is slow. I think we talked about the Laura Edition auger in that video for the first time. It was kind of like a, oh, by the way.
Greg at Power Planter sent me a photo once of like a Dahlia that had, I don't know how many of those Laura Edition augers on it. He was like, this is just a couple hours worth of orders. A lot of people
thank you guys. For those of you who ordered those augers, honestly, I'm pretty confident in those augers because of how much they've helped me. I hope they help you as much as they have helped me, for sure. Second video was planting the Partera Garden and pots around the Hartley. Pots was the easy part. Just had to replace drip in one and planted those up with some real pretty purple and pinks again. I'm really leaning hard in on those colors. This year. It's just such a cooling look. And then we planted the crabapple trees in the 4 quadrants behind the Partera Garden behind the Hartley, and that was a business.
Yeah. Are you happy with how it turned out?
I love how it turned out, but I had to take a break because I was going crazy.
Yeah.
We could not figure out how to exactly center these things because these squares aren't actually squares, because one side is drawn in so much to be a swoop. Which, if you were to imagine, which your leaning was to imagine that the swoop wasn't there, find the exact center of what that circle would be. But what that would do is it would be like centered, I guess, in the square, but it would be way too close to the swoop, so it'd make the planting area look lopsided or not balanced. So what we ended up doing is I took a break, watered in the greenhouse, and then I came back with a fresh eye. And what I decided is like, well, I need to center this with the Hartley. I need to figure out where these beds are on either side of the Hartley door and figure out that center, so we at least know this center. So then it was just deciding how far to put them in the bed this way, not with the Hartley as the background. And we ended up kind of pulling them back. So they are centered one direction, but they're not centered the other direction. If that makes any sense at all, but I love how it turned out.
I think the funniest part of that whole project, which we didn't mention it in the video, but in one of those little square sections, there's one extra brick. If you count the bricks, it looks straight. And that's probably why Benny put that extra brick in there, is because it probably wasn't looking correct. And so he's like, the math isn't mathing, I don't know. But it does look correct. It looks right as you're looking at those 4 sections. That one doesn't look larger than the others. But I just thought that was funny, as we were trying to find the middle, and we were like, well, how many bricks? Which brick should it line up with?
And it was real confusing, and it was starting to get real frustrating, and we counted over and over and over again.
We were like, there's 20 bricks here, and there's 19 bricks here, but they look the same.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, we got it figured out. Visually, I think it looks really nice. And then I planted some Bordeaux Supertunias around the base of every one of those crab apples Terry said, did Aaron have any idea how much he enjoyed trees and developing property before you moved into your new house?
No. You know, I've always, though, had a little bit of an interest because I remember doing yard work at the house I grew up in.
But you had a lawn care business.
Yeah, and I had a lawn. So, yeah, there's probably like something in there, you know, where there's always been like a connection.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed mowing lawns, and I liked that I could make money mowing lawns. I was always kind of entrepreneurial in that way.
Yeah, you were.
I mean, to me, it was like a no-brainer when you could like walk your lawnmower down to the neighbor's house and mow their lawn for $15 and then do that with like 10 other lawns. I was rolling in the cash as a 15-year-old boy.
Dr. TCBKK said, serious question, does Laura ever have anything fail? Doesn't seem so. I do have things fail. Can we talk about winter sowing? I winter sow every single year, and last year I said I wasn't going to do it because I just don't plant the stuff out. It's just not as convenient as starting things in seed trays for me because I've got like kind of a system in our greenhouse to start things out there and in here. Winter sowing, like I have success with things coming up. They all come up, but they're still sitting in their winter sowing jugs in the greenhouse, languishing. Like they need to be planted out, but I don't even really want to at this point. I'm like, no, they don't look very good more, and I really don't want to put you out and then have to baby you. That's a fail.
We had a bunch of shrubs that just didn't come back this year.
Yeah.
Like the Rosa Sharons. That doesn't make a lot of sense because those are pretty hardy.
I'm not sure what I could have done though to make that better.
Yeah.
I think that was just a weird winter thing.
Do you consider that a fail when...
No, I don't consider...
Really?
No, that doesn't drag me down at all. That wasn't my fault. Something, I don't know.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, sure. Budlias and Rosa Sharon, those just didn't fare winter very well for me here. And I don't know what the deal is with that. I would say that most of my fails come from inattention. Is that a word?
That Weigela?
Yeah, like I'll think I ran drip to it, or I intend to run drip to it and I forget because there's other things I'm moving on to, and then it dies.
Sure.
You know, things like that. I would say that it doesn't happen all that often. I think this year is better than most years. A follow through has been a little bit better, but I also have a little bit older kids.
Yeah.
So I've been able to spend a little bit more time, like they can come along and they're happier because they're playing. I mean, Samantha's over there filling her shoes full of dirt.
Yeah.
You know, last year, it was a lot more. I mean, she had everything in her mouth. Everything she could possibly put in her mouth, she did.
It was just like a constant with rocks.
Yeah. And mud and water, and it was
that
just...
one time we wondered if she put a mushroom in her mouth.
Yeah, because we had some mushrooms grow up in the lawn, and I mean, they were everywhere, so that was hard to monitor. I mean, you had to be face to face with her all the time. You couldn't be distracted when you were with her. And this year you can, a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, not 100%, obviously, she's only 2. But
she can communicate now, though.
Yeah.
Like if something's... She can tell you what's up.
Also, Benjamin is really good at watching over her too. A lot of times they're off playing together, and I can see him. You know, I keep him with. That's pretty important to me. They're within eyeshot of somebody all the time. So
Benjamin's at that age where he'll be like, "Dad, Samantha's not doing what you said."
Yeah. Tattletale. Yeah. Linda said, Laura and Aaron, you've done an amazing job with your property. Thank you. You should give thought to publishing a gardening book like so many others have done. You know, we've been approached a few times. I don't know. I just feel like it would take a lot of focus away from other things that I would rather be focusing on.
You have a hard time not giving things kind of your all. And I think that if we did a book, the only way it could get done is if you had somebody really helping you a lot with it.
Yeah.
Like doing 80% of the work or even more. Because I don't think you could devote more than 20% to doing something like that, and I just don't think that would make you happy.
No, I don't think so either. One question, please. Are you going to leave your teak benches in the dirt or move them inside or on the gravel in your parterre? They won't be on the dirt. Where the dirt is out there, it will be gravel fairly soonish. We're hoping to get gravel moved in on the other sides of that. My garden plans have kind of changed around like what I want to do in that space, so that will be more of a gravel walkway, so you can navigate the whole area. Heather H. said, I love that you say button up. Where do you come up with that phrase? I'm guessing possibly your mom always said it referring to gardening. It's a charming phrase. To go button up projects?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that a lot of people in my life say that.
Maybe it's a regional thing.
Maybe it is. I've never thought about it, to be honest. I Z-Tag 1P said, maybe somebody else already asked this question, but do you know what the crabapple tree's roots will be like eventually? We have some decades-old trees, and trying to plant around the roots is nigh unto impossible. Do you know what trees have easier root systems for planting around the bases? I wonder if it has to do with like water table and type of soil, because I don't have any problem planting underneath crabapple trees here. The crabapple.
You have trouble with planting under most trees here.
No, you're right. The hardest one we have is the maple by the back shade porch. I planted some hellebore plugs because that's basically all I could plant up near it. I mean, I couldn't make holes big enough. And even then, those are kind of struggling because I think that maple is just using up the water.
I wonder if, the reason that our roots go down more is because we have to give localized water and generally drip because we don't get enough rain. So there's not a lot of like surface water roots kind of have to go down because we're giving water right at the base. So it's just like...
But that is technically surface water. So we're giving them a lot of surface water.
But imagine in a rainy area, there's a lot of water along the entire surface. And so the roots can just go out. There's really no reason to go down.
Yeah, you're right.
Because for us, if you put a dripper right at the base of the plant, there's no water if it goes side to side. There's nothing.
Sure.
It only gets water right around the root. And I wonder if that's why.
That could be, yeah. But we have that old crabapple tree up in front of our house. I think it's a Donald Wyman variety. That's the closest variety I can find to it. It's beautiful and it's huge, but we plant like gallon-sized perennials underneath it when the flower bed was there. Now it's grass under it. But I never had any issues with that.
Yeah.
Anne said, would you ever consider showing yourselves putting fertilizer on your plants? I'm not sure what the best method is, the type that you do once a week. So like annual fertilizer. We should do another one. We've done videos in the past, but our method has changed a little bit. And now Bethany primarily is doing the fertilizing on Tuesdays. And we've got a big old tank, 150-gallon tank that we mix up our fertilizer. It's essentially like a huge watering can. So it could be scaled, however, but we could do a video on that and do all the fertilizing. Janice said, I love your videos. I've learned a ton and it simply brightens my day and gives me ideas. That's amazing. I appreciate that we are in near identical zones. 2 questions. Have you ever planted a bat-faced kufia? If so, what was your experience with them? I have never planted a bat-faced kufia. I'm actually not sure that I've heard of a bat-faced kufia. It's like a vermillionaire kufia, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Hold on, I gotta look it up.
It's like the long-throated, like orange generally blooms.
It's a bat-faced kufia or red kufia. Is a perennial subshrub native to Mexico in the loosestrife family. That's probably why I've never heard of it. It's not hardy in our zone. Bat-faced kufia hardiness zone 9 through 12. So it wouldn't, if you're in an identical zone to me.
It just sounds like an annual.
It'd be an annual. Yeah, and I've not planted it. It is bright red. And it would probably attract all of the hummingbirds. Kufia tends to do that. And do you have a timeline of when you originally bought your place and the major projects and when you bought the other adjacent properties? Have a timeline. Well, our videos are kind of a timeline, I guess.
Yeah, just go back to, we have like a really neat playlist on YouTube. Neat as in like orderly. I mean, it's awesome too, but it goes by year and you can kind of thumb around to see when we did stuff. I felt like that was the easiest way because we used to have playlists based on like topic, but it's so easy to search for topics in the Google search bar. If you type in garden answer hydrangea or garden answer, whatever the topic is, Google's YouTube is really good at showing you that thing. One thing they're not great about is if you type in like garden answer 2016, it doesn't give you a nice little playlist of all the videos from that time frame. So that's why it made sense to me just to make all our playlists based on date. So you can go back if you want.
Nice. XYZ said, hey guys, greetings from Poland. I have a question for Laura. Do you ever ask yourself, why do I need such a big garden? Does it overwhelm you in any way? I would say that there's only a very small window of time that I get not overwhelmed, but just a little more stressed in the spring. It feels like when everything needs to be mulched, when everything needs to be weeded, when all of the projects are going down, so we need drip to go in, and you can only work so much, and Paul and Bethany can only get so much done in a day, and they get a tremendous amount done. But there's like a 2 or 3 week period where I'm like, and everyone is just going for it, trying to get as much done, and we work like weekends and evenings, and we have the kids with us, and we're all going around and it's a good time. It's not a drudgery, is that the right word?
Yeah.
When you're doing it, but the rest of the year I really attribute a lot of that, of not feeling overwhelmed, to Paul and Bethany, because of how much they help us out and how good of a job they do, and that is invaluable to me. So I'm not overwhelmed by the amount of space. In fact, this year I feel like it's the first year where because of the babies being so young, Samantha and Benjamin are no longer really babies, and we're done with babies. So knowing that I'm not going to be back in that situation again where I feel more tied to the house and not doing as much outside, I don't know, it feels fun, and like, let's go till up more of the new property and do something different. I don't know. Also, a part of it is because we do like to have a lot of different projects going on so that we can show you varied content. So it's not the same thing all the time, because that gets old to me. I get a little weary of doing like a garlic planting video every year, and it's only one time a year, but I'm like, oh, I've already done this. I've done this like 5 times or however many times I've done it. And to me, it feels like too much. So if I've got lots of different things going on, it feels more exciting to me. I get bored real easy. Next video was building beautiful raised beds for Monica and Nick's garden. That was so much fun because it was the next step in Monica and Nick's space to kind of make it feel like more complete. And
are you worried about those raised beds being too flimsy now?
Oh my gosh. No, those will never break down ever in a million years.
Over-engineered, if anything.
the amount of straps and bracing. I mean, those things are going nowhere. But the thing is, if I did it at my own house, I may not have done as much.
Yeah.
But when you're doing something for somebody else, like, I want them to be eternal. That was Monica's word. She's like, these are eternal, and they're beefy, and I really like that.
Yeah.
I do. I really like that, and they are really pleased with them, and it was fun to do the next step because it had been a few weeks, and we've just been doing things as we've been able to. It wasn't some type of project that we were going to just like boom, 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 get it all done. And 2, we were kind of waiting on Pedro too, who did a beautiful job on the rock wall and the steps and all of that. But he could only dedicate a certain amount of time because I asked him about that project expecting maybe like to be pushed to fall. And he was like, sure, let's start it next week. We can give you this amount of time next week, and then we'll finish up in following weeks. Was not expecting him to agree to that so quickly. So I'm thankful for, how fast we have been able to get it done. My goal was to get the raised beds in by the end of May so that Monica and Nick still had time to plant their tomatoes and things like that and get them going. So we hit that goal. We still need to do drip irrigation. I'm hoping to do that this weekend. We shall see. Texas Doodle Darlin said, what did you use to cover the ground with before installing the raised beds? It looks more shiny and thicker than what I have bought. I am not sure what brand that one was. Monica and Nick had that on hand from some other previous project, and Monica did that. She rolled that out a couple of nights previous to me being there with the raised bed supplies. Usually I only use DeWitt Pro, and it doesn't have that shiny look to it. In fact, I was worried that the stuff that was down was going to tear. And it did in one spot, but it was pretty tough. I mean, it underwent, is that the right word? It underwent lots of abuse that day, and it stayed pretty nice. I mean, we were dragging that heavy umbrella on that fabric throughout the day to create shade for ourselves because it was so warm that day. And it held up. So Tony said, love these raised beds. I'm planning on building my own waist high raised beds for food production and love the design of these. Did you end up using redwood for Monica's too? You know what? That was my intention, was redwood, and that's not what I ended up with, which is kind of a bummer. I ended up with Better Prime Fir, which is like a higher grade fir. And I didn't realize it. I mean, I had built all the beds. I just didn't even think to verify.
To double check.
Yeah, to verify what kind of wood I was working with. And I don't do wood, clearly, don't do woodworking very often. It wasn't until I was 24 inches short. I needed one more 24-inch piece of wood. And Ontario Home Depot was out of redwood. So I thought, well, we cleaned them out. We went to the Nampa one, picked up a board, and we got it back to Monica's house. And I'm like, oh, this is not the right wood. And what gets me about it is that the price of the Better Prime Fir is about the same as the price of redwood.
Is it that much inferior though?
I don't think it can be. I mean, these beds are like...
It looked like it was pretty stout and like good, like hard wood.
Yeah, it seemed that way.
It was heavy wood, like really heavy.
Well, we got that one board, and if you see in some of the, we're going to swap it out, but you can see in some of the the views. I actually cut a bunch because it was such a glaring, like, red piece of wood.
Oh, sure.
And Monica was like, I am so glad we didn't end up with redwood. I mean, I know that that's what you wanted, and that's what, you know, in order for them to last a long time. But I like the color of the fir way better, which I kind of did too. We did redwood in our garden, and I don't remember it being like pink red color. Maybe we didn't get redwood either. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe not.
No, I do remember
Was it
redwood
red?
being pretty pink, if I remember correctly. But
it grayed out really fast.
yeah.
Anyway, I think
there's stains and stuff too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, food grade stains.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, it's something that going forward I will know to check, but I'm really happy that they ended up with the color that they liked the best.
Yeah.
Because, you know, looking at that all the time, I think with the color of mulch that was chosen too, it would have looked a lot more red. Everything would have looked more red. So I think that more
Oh yeah,
blonde-
because she went with more
she went with brown
mulch. Yeah.
So anyway, were you able to get the caps from Gardener Supply, or are those from somewhere else? I ordered those copper caps through Amazon. The difference being they're a tiny bit more pointed on the top. Well, I don't think that really matters. The ones from Gardener Supply have tiny little holes on the sides, and they send the copper nails, the copper colored nails, to go with them. So you can tack them on top of the board, which I think is probably a better way of attaching. The ones I ordered, you glue. I used the Gorilla exterior grade Gorilla glue, and we just did a bead of that around, and it seems to be holding real well.
I doubt that glue's going to go anywhere.
I don't think so. It's not really going to be coming in contact with water because all the water will shed off the top of those.
And gravity will keep the
You
cap
would think,
on, so
yeah.
I don't think it'll go anywhere.
Hopefully not. Hanxing Lee said, do you empty the hot water out of those hose before you start watering your plants? Yes. Does the hose link keep the water cooler rather than heating up from the hot sun? I mean, I just let it run until it's cool. I don't know if it's any different.
Yeah, I haven't really noticed either. I want to say maybe it does keep it a little bit cooler.
Mm-hmm. Definitely cooler than the, we use Gilmore hoses that are like a charcoal gray.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that those keep them hotter, for sure. You know, I only have one spot where I've got one of those hoses in the vegetable garden.
Not for long.
Yeah, Erin might try something in there, so. Nikki said, I'm confused. Why is Monica watering the mulch? Just to, like, there's always like a dust layer, and to wash that off a little bit, can be helpful. And it kind of, like, doesn't lock it in place, but it kind of like settles it all, I guess. So she just went through quick and watered it down.
That's a common thing in like work sites, construction sites, and even landscaping sites. Because like as you're walking along in areas, like the dust does kind of come to the top.
Yeah.
So settling it makes sense.
Anna said, I love the trellis that Monica and Nick built. Any chance a link could be posted of where they got the pattern documents from? I will see if I can get a hold of it. But they did a beautiful job on that. Nick explained everything to me, like in high detail. I mean, it was like a pretty precise job that had to be done. He did it really well, really well. Minnie said, can you please tell us if there's any special reason why you always choose North Pole arbs for your living wall projects? I live in Texas, zone 8B, and I'm considering these varieties: Emerald Green, Junior Giant, and Blue Cone. I would really value your thoughts and opinions on the various varieties of arborvitae. The only one I'm really familiar with is Emerald Green, which is kind of the one that people use as a hedger here if you're not using North Pole. The only reason why I typically use North Pole is because of the size. You know, 10 to 15 feet tall, 3 to 5 feet wide. A lot of times we're working in a smaller sort of area, so using that is a lot easier to fit in. And ours have done pretty well for us.
Aside from...
But it's been a water issue. It's like been our fault. But then there has been the weighing issue, like the liter sort of thing. So we'll see going forward. You know, a lot of times you don't know about plants exactly until you've got lots of years of experience growing these same plants, you know, to see how they do throughout the years and how they look when they're older and what they've gone through in different sorts of weather and that sort of thing. YouTube channel said, why wasn't gravel used around the raised beds? The mulch will break down and need to be constantly replaced. I went with what Monica and Nick wanted there. That was their personal preference. So that's what we went with, and they love it. Next video is the results of overwintering dahlias in the ground in zone 6, and then I planted a whole bunch more, both tubers and plants. So I just went through all the numbers, like the whole process of overwintering them, why we decided to do that, and then the results, which we were just under 60% success rate on that one, which in the end is success. So that's a win for me because we're still ahead, even with that, because digging and storing is the worst. It's the worst like job ever, all year. And if we can eliminate some of that and still, I feel like digging a few was good. We could pot them up, and I had some to put in there and fill the gaps. But it also opens up, when we lose some, it opens up opportunity to plant new varieties, which I don't want to grow the same things every single year out there. Some of the same things, but not all. But when you lose some of them, it's like, well, that gives me, in the open spots, I'll pop some new varieties.
Yeah.
The only problem is that you don't know exactly how many to get, but typically you can order late, and it may not be the exact varieties that you were thinking of, but you can still get stuff to fill in the gaps. Jazzercise Mitten said, do you ever track your steps in a day? I'm sure we would all be astonished at how many you get in. Well, I don't know. I don't track my steps. I did at the garden center one year. Like a spring day, it was over 10 miles in a day. Here, though, with the gators and stuff, it saves us a tremendous amount of steps.
That's true.
You know, I do a lot, like in that video, it was like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But not all projects are like that. I could probably stand to walk a few more steps in the day, but anyway. Kyle said, do you compare which survived to their growing zone and see if there was a correlation? May help with expectations from year to year. I don't know if I'll ever be that organized. I mean, everything that came up in there, I have no idea. Like I
wonder if that's true, though.
I labeled nothing.
I wonder if those that came back are different zones than the ones that didn't.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I think once they start to bloom, I will know exactly what varieties they are. And I ordered a bunch of those big, I showed you the big tea labels that I'm using. And I will try to be good about labeling all the stuff that's out there so that we know. Because my goodness. Yeah, the organization, I don't really enjoy that part. Thankfully, we're not like growing to sell tubers and like have the exact variety names on stuff. Don't know that I would survive that sort of situation. I kind of just like to grow stuff. Has pretty blooms? Great. Catherine said, can't wait to see all the beautiful flowers. Will you still dig up a few of your favorites this year like last year, or will you leave them in the ground? I might just leave them all. I don't know. It depends on how we're doing that time of year and what's going on. And we might dig a few. Ella said, have you ever grown them from seeds? Yes. Will you consider it? Yeah. I ordered some from Flower Farm, and she says it's easy. It is so easy. She just actually sent out some seeds. They're in here somewhere. And I got some seeds from one of you guys. You sent me some, and I've grown them from seed before. And they are very easy to start from seed. In fact, the first year you will get blooms, and then they form these cute little tubers. I mean, they're little to start off with. But yeah, you can easily do it. Erie said, will you consider putting a polytunnel over the dahlias during winter? I just thought that might help to keep more of them alive. It's a huge area. I'm trying to think, like, how would that work? Could you do like a couple or three?
We kind of did.
I suppose, but it wasn't air though. Like there wasn't a lot of air.
You don't want airflow, right?
Well, you want like a heat bubble.
Right, but that's what I mean is you don't want any airflow because it would get cold. So
well, you'd still want to like mulch and then put a polytunnel over the top.
Oh yeah. Well, what if we did it the opposite? Instead of putting the hay and stuff, the straw, on top of the silage tarp, what if you did?
Well, the reason we did it that way was because if you do your layer of mulch and then your tarp over it, then you've created a dry, warm, like cozy nest for all the rodents.
Yeah.
So we figured, and then that way too, if you've got any diggers, they are closer to the tubers. They have free access to dig under the soil to the tubers and eat them if they wanted to. So we thought silage tarp first, keep the moisture out, hopefully keep the rodent activity down, and then the mulch on top of it. That was our reasoning. I don't know if that's sound reasoning or not.
Yeah.
But to us at the time, we were like, let's just do it that way.
Seems legit.
Yeah. Bethany and Paul and I talked it over quite a lot. Like, you never know, especially with the first year project. Oh, next question. Holly K said, did you notice any loss from rodents? No. Not that I can tell. There's no burrows, no holes, nothing tried to dig in there that I can tell. Carney said, there's a dahlia I saw that has your last name and originated in Oregon. Could there be a link between you? You may not like the color. It's red. I'm surprised by the name Lubutier. Coincidence? I've never seen that variety before.
Hold on, let's Google it.
Yeah.
Is it spelled the same?
She's got it spelled the same in the comment. There's a space, though, between Le and Butier.
Sure. There's something about Dahlia Addict. Miss George Lubutier.
Mrs. George Lubutier.
Yeah.
Red Dahlia. That's for Mrs. George Lubutier, and no connection that I know of. Debbie said, I noticed Aaron uses his cell phone to start the sprinkler system. What timer/controller do you use that provides the smart system?
You do not want what we have.
I don't even know how to. I don't have anything on my phone. I have to text Aaron when I need.
We have a really complex system. It allows us to have like 150 zones. Mm-hmm. We probably use about 80 to 90 of them, and a lot of our zones are very small. They'll just do like one zone will literally be 2 pots, mm-hmm. or so we can run like up to 10 zones at a time because you're not doing a lot at one time. But ours is a Hunter ACC2 system, and it's really only for like, campuses and things
commercial.
Like that. Yeah, like maybe, big commercial mm-hmm. applications. We have also used Ratio, which I've been really happy with. Yeah. You can get that in an 8 or 16 zone.
That was great. I really liked that.
Yeah, I don't really have experience with some of the other ones. I know Hunter even has, which is like a pretty large brand. Mm-hmm. They have more residential units. Mm-hmm. Rainbird has one that's probably good, but mm-hmm. If you just get any of those brands that are made for home use, mm-hmm. like a 8 or 16 zone, you'll probably love it.
Karen said, what do you do with the beautiful bouquets you put together? Are they for special events, gifts, or just for fun to enjoy in your home? All of those things. They've been at weddings, at bridal showers, at graduations, at memorial services. They've also been, I took one bouquet to my mom this week. I actually did a few bouquets for a nursing home. We took our first load to the nursing home this week. And, they're coming out of the garden a little slower right now because we're just amping up. But it was fun. I was able to pick like 4 buckets of flowers. There was more out there, but 4 that were really like nice long stems and all of that business. And so they just go all over the place. Next video was the 2023 Rose Tour. The first time we've ever done, a dedicated Rose Tour video. And I did not realize how many roses we actually had until we started walking around. Like, dang. There's a lot out there, and they happen to all look pretty good right at the same time. Which it feels like there's some years where by this time we're already in the 100 degrees and things are starting to look sad, or we've had a ton of wind. We actually had a pretty, not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but we had a windstorm last night where I noticed a ton of petals on the ground. But we didn't lose anything, and there's still blooms out there. But some areas around us got penny-sized hail, and there were 60-mile-an-hour winds, and it looked like it was moving toward us. And Monica said that they got it like they were out on their patio. It was still and beautiful, and then in like a second, it came descended on their area, and that usually moves. Well, that one was moving a different direction than our normal weather moves. Right. It was weird. Jennifer said, "Which rose has your favorite scent?" Oh, well, the Ambridge rose is awesome. Boscobel's awesome. Poet's Wife is awesome. State of Grace is awesome. There's a lot of great ones. What's your favorite one? That's the next part. Also, which one does your husband like the most? Which color? Do you have a color of rose?
Never stopped to smell the roses.
Or a structure of rose that you like?
I liked the one that you started off at. I also like the one that you never plant, which is the, what's that called? It's all around town.
Nearly Wild.
Nearly Wild.
Yeah. You know those plants that when we worked out at the garden center, we sold a ton of Nearly Wilds to parking lot sort of situations and commercial situations. It's kind of like, I think a lot of people view daylilies that way, like yellow blooming Stella d'Oro daylilies.
Parking lot plant.
Yeah, parking lot plants. Barberries in our area, they're not invasive here, but barberries, ornamental grasses, daylilies, and Nearly Wild roses. Or knockout roses seem to be the go-tos, and so you just kind of view them that way. It's not that they're not pretty, but
I like Outlast. I think it's a little warm, so I don't love it all the time because I do like pinks and stuff. That first one you were standing by, which one was that? Boscobel?
Boscobel.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
That's a really great one. Victoria said, "I thought I didn't like roses, but man, I was wrong. You have so many beauties. Are there any climbing ones without thorns?" Zephrine drew in. And where do you get some or most all of your roses from? Okay, lots of different sources. So some from Proven Winners, some from my parents' garden center, which includes David Austin's. They get Weeks roses in, so there's a whole bunch of different ones that Weeks roses carries or grows. So I get some from there. Heirloom Roses is a great online source, and I actually have a box here, I think with four of them in there, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
So we'll have some new ones to show you, but they have really supplied out our rose garden this year.
Heirloom Roses sells a lot of roses.
They do. A lot of different types.
I don't think that they sell any Proven Winners varieties, but they sell a lot of different like brands of roses.
Right. Yeah. Grace Rose Farm also, she sent out 12 roses for our rose garden, which were all beautiful, and they've got some amazing varieties. So I was really happy with the quality too. I mean, some were like in full bloom when they arrived. Beautiful. Laura said, at 1615, you said some of the roses had reverted and something about red roses. Can you please explain that? So, like we were talking about earlier, when you've got a grafted rose, the root system is a lot of times like a Dr. Huey, I think is the red rose rootstock that if you see like some wild rose canes coming out from below the graft of your rose, which is usually a swollen, like a knobby look toward the base of your rose, you'll see growth coming from under that, and that's from the rootstock that's used. There are a few, I think, different rootstocks used, but typically the ones I've had grow are the Dr. Huey, which are like kind of the wild looking red rose sort of. Yeah. So that's what some of our icebergs are reverting to.
Is that just because Dr. Huey is a more hardy variety, and so it's better to graft a non-hardy variety to a hardy root?
Mm-hmm. Kenneth said, are there any roses that do well in pots? I can't seem to find any. Well, I think the rule, you need to go by the rule of thumb when planting something in a pot that's a perennial or a shrub. Choose one that's rated 2 zones lower than your growing zone, which can be a little bit hard when you're talking roses, because it gives you that buffer. And I know a lot of roses are like a zone 5 or a zone 6. Except for like the ice bay that we talked about earlier, that's hardy to zone 3. Anything that's grafted is a little bit more susceptible to any kind of temperature shifts and things like that. But if I was choosing a rose, I'd try to choose a hardy one. I'd also try to choose an own root one, and then choose one that stays smaller, on the smaller side. And a lot of times in a rose description, it'll tell you if it's good for containers. I know, like, I've seen that on David Austin's website before. Last video was the Hayracks are back, planting up 22 Hayracks with brand new varieties for 2023 and 24. So 20 of them have the 2024 new annuals in them. And then the other 2, we had 2 varieties that were brand new this year that we've grown prior. We were able to grow last year, but I just kind of wanted to see, especially with that Midnight, Super Tunia Mini Vista Midnight.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that one. I'm not sure if I like it.
Well, yeah, and the growth of
it's just like
it won't
flat.
go up at all. It's just a complete ground.
But I've only ever grown it with other things. I've never grown it on its own.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be interesting.
It was kind of fun to do things as like monos, just to see how they react with each other.
Right. We have the Midnight planted in our 10 big pots on the east fence line, and I don't like them in there. They look like they look like too dark.
Yeah.
You know?
You should pull them out.
I could, but that feels a little wasteful. It feels like I'm not giving them their due. Like, let them go the season and see how they. I don't know. Yeah, but I like dark colors, like the dark black petunias. I like that, but only I'm just learning this about myself and my preferences. But I like to pair those with like foliage plants and white. Maybe like some blue Dichondra Silver Falls. I had them last year with some Color Blaze Coleus, Dichondra Silver Falls, Plectranthus, and then a white Sempation, and that was a glorious mix. That was really pretty.
I only like dark blooms, like dark petunias, if it's like 80-90% blooms and 10 or 20% foliage.
Sure.
If it's like a 50-50,
so far it's spotty.
It looks bad to me.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
You need to have tons of blooms to make it look good.
Too Many Tomatoes said, fun project. That's a great way to trial plants. You guys have had amazing weather this spring. We have. It rained hard that day.
Yeah.
Hard.
Like
for
the
hours.
hardest it's rained all spring.
Yeah. I'm wondering if all the rain has created any significant increase in humidity. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much more humid outside. In fact, today Erin was like, I think I'm gonna turn the AC unit off in here. It's always kind of humid in here though. And we had to turn it back on because it was just way too humid. But yeah, I step outside and I'm like, it just feels, yeah. Cindy said, is it possible to buy seeds for any of the plants you showed? It is not. Edwina said, just wondering how you manage all your empty plastic plant pots. Do you reuse or have a way to recycle them? We reuse a lot of them. We save the trays because we like to be able to separate plants when they come in to us. They come in like 10 plants per tray. So we like to have a big stack of trays on hand because we like to take out every other plant and have them in a zigzag in the tray so they have more airflow and room to breathe, and they get more sunshine and they stay healthier that way. They don't get all intertwined together, and that can be really bad for the plants. So we do try to use as many of them as we can, and I use a lot of them in the greenhouse. A lot of used pots to plant things up in. Helen said, glad to see Erin got his Hayracks back. Are you happy?
I am happy.
Yeah, it'll be fun. This must be his season. A rose garden, Hayracks, and what's next, a pond?
Well, yeah. So July 25th, around that time, we're going to put in a pond in the back, and Greg Whitstock is going to do it. Well, sort of. Brian is designing it. His kind of like right-hand man dude.
And then Chris, who's
Chris is the local guy. So I think the way it works is that Brian's designing it, who's on Greg Whitstock's team, and then Chris, I can't remember the name of his company, but he's out of Nampa, which is not far from us.
Awesome.
That's like the town that
we will have all his
lives in.
info for those of you who are local, because I enjoy working with him a lot.
He's like such a nice guy,
Yeah.
and he's like so accommodating.
He listens. He
Yeah,
listens to what you
say.
want. And that is huge to me, because it's a huge decision to put in something like that. To me, that's a massive thing. And to have somebody that you're working with who you feel like is really listening to what you want from this thing, because it's in your garden space and he understands that. It's just really a pleasant. Brian's the same way.
Yeah, Brian's super cool. I like him. He texted me this morning and said that hopefully he'll have the pond design sent over by the end of the week.
Ooh, very fun.
So it'll be
That's
fun.
exciting. Diane said, I'm so happy to see these are back. Also, what nail polish is that? I noticed you either have no nail polish on or that shade only. Very pretty shade. It's kind of the shade of soil, because it becomes necessary. I should have some on right now. I took it off because it was so chipped off. But yeah, it's just kind of a brown. I don't know what shade it is. I probably had it for like 10 years. Carrie said, I'm so excited about this project. Can't wait to see how they perform. Are all the Supertunias in the Vista line? Was wondering no, they're not. Was wondering your thoughts on the vigor level on the Vista varieties. Bubblegum is clearly number 1. What would you consider number 2 and number 3? So the ones we planted, the Supertunia Bermuda Beach is not in the Vista line. Supertunia Vistas are just high performing plants, containers or landscape. They're vigorous, they get huge. I would say Snowdrift.
Snowdrift?
It's a beast.
I don't think that bubblegum is number 1. I think it's tied with Snowdrift. Snowdrift gets kind of big.
We should plant.
Yeah.
I didn't have any bubblegums this year. 0.
Yeah. Well, the only way you kind of need plots,
Yeah.
That's what,
Plant one
colleges
in the
do.
middle of this plot and see how huge it gets compared to one in the middle of the next plot.
Because you want to see what one plant looks like on its own.
Right. Yeah, bubblegum, Snowdrift, and then probably fuchsia. Do you think?
What if we did that somewhere? What if we put some plots out of the way somewhere, just for testing a certain number of plants in the ground?
That'd be easy.
Yeah, and I don't know how big of a plot you would want for each one.
Like a 4x4, don't you think?
Yeah, it'd be really easy to run drip, and it would take
no water at all, hardly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean 1 emitter per plant.
Yeah. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, think about that. Thank you guys so much for watching this recap video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're having a great start to your week, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.